Okay.
Hi, Pat. Great to see you.
Hey, Chris, how's it going?
Good, good.
Thank
So
you.
we've
Same
just
here.
been talking a little
Thanks.
bit and talking about how to switch from the tedium of our thoughts to the vastness of what? How are we going to describe this? The vastness
Of the spirit?
of the spirit, yeah. And
Um,
someone told me that when she does that transition from tedium, that there's a vastness that opens up, that where there's no boundaries. It's just vastness. And so I took that and ran with it. For me, it's a vastness in which there are no instructions or words. And it terminates my tedious thinking, which I'm engaged in most of the time. And I've been meditating since the 90s. So it's for me, I've accepted the fact that this tedious thinking is here to stay, and that my spiritual life is going to have to work around it. or my ego. I don't know how to describe it, but so what I think I experience when I go from tedium to basically opening myself to God is a sense of timelessness and no agenda, and just basically general well-being, but like there's no like answers out there. It's a something I sort of fall into, answerless arms, maybe.
yeah, yeah. Interesting. I've had very little success with meditation, but that may be because I haven't really given it my best. If it was, I would have arrived at nirvana about 10 years ago. But that's not how you meditate. So, but just to give everyone like myself a break, I'm going to say that even all the attempts at doing it matter.
Yes.
And the arrival at the great space, in fact, that spaciousness you talked about, that nothingness or whatever we want to name the place where we meet something. In your case, you call that God, and I would call it the divine, or the benevolence that passes all understanding. I think that in some level, I'm a little afraid of that. I'm afraid of the necessary letting go, the being with something unnameable. Wow, I want a name. I need a name. I need to see your ID. As a matter of fact, how crazy is that?
How about the driver's license?
Yeah, driver's license is fine. I'll accept the driver's license. But I mean, just that unknowingness, I think, keeps a lot of people. I'm going to speak for myself. Keeps me from going there because I'm so afraid. Again, reflection on childhood. if childhood, because I think we can weave this stuff in here, if it, because it's cultural, if the childhood, then I get graspy, I'm graspy because I'm like, if I let go, what's going to happen? I blah, 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 blah. I've got to stay present to myself, even though there was probably not that at all. It was probably disassociation that occurs when a child is overwhelmed. So I think I only bring that up because I think it weighs in. Is it impossible to overcome those things? No, it's not impossible, because I do believe that with God, all things are possible. So, but it is it's more of a risk. It feels it's more of a risk, which is, a strong word to use, but I think it feels that way. This is risky. Meditating is risky. When I totally let go, what's going to happen? So I just put that out there because I don't think I'm alone with that. As a matter of fact, there has been some research showing that open-eyed meditation is better for some people than close-eyed.
Wow.
And that would be gazing at trees or gazing at nature and then meditate in that state. So closing the eyes is not necessary for meditation, because there's walking meditation, there's all forms of it. So I think it's important for people to know that, because I think there's some kind of fallacy about your eyes must be closed. No, they're not. They don't. No, they don't need to be closed.
Well, there's really no rules at all. I mean,
there's no rules at all. Great.
That's
Good
after, point. I mean, I started meditating in the 90s, and so that's a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
And if anything, my mind is more monkey mind now than it was back then, almost.
Yeah.
I mean, it hasn't really fundamentally changed, but I just wrote something about this the other day because I got kind of concerned about how I think it's common for people to meditate, once or maybe 5 times and decide, I'm not a very good meditator. I'm not going to do this anymore. It's really not, I'm not really cut out for it.
Right.
Right. But our friend Joan said, the purpose of meditation is not to be a good meditator. So that's sort of like, whoa, that was just kind of put all the Humpty Dumpty pieces together for me. Because it's really what it does to my life that is important, not what it does to my meditation. So, I mean, if you're going to learn how to play tennis, you want to get better and better at it. But meditation, I don't think you want to be better and better at it. I think you want to just show up and try to, I was going to say, try to clear the decks, but I never clear the decks when I meditate. I'm thinking about conversations I've had with people. I'm thinking about dinner tonight. I'm thinking about what I have to do tomorrow. I'm thinking about all the stupid things we think about. So, but I'm quiet. I always meditate with friends. I've got a group I meditate with. And so there's the not camaraderie, fellowship, I guess. But anyway, so I think we got into meditation because of the the vastness. When we ask God for God's presence, what do we get? And the presence is an interruption for me. It's an interruption in my very predictable thought patterns into something vast and boundless and somehow safe.
Hmm. Yeah, I'm going to have to say that I have not reached that. I would never use the word safe. I would, if I had to put it in a word about what I sense or feel or arrive at when I try my best to quiet down, is almost like an unknowing. And it's in that unknowing place that that uncomfortable comes up. Yeah.
That something comfortable or uncomfortable comes up.
Something uncomfortable comes up.
Oh.
I mean, uncomfortable is not a great word. It's not, maybe uncomfortable is not the right word at all. It's more of an unknowing that I'm uncomfortable with.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to that.
Yeah. Yeah, go ahead.
And anything that I'm not familiar with, my first reaction is to be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Which I think, we're born with that. Probably a good thing to have when you're, a caveman, and you could have some snake coming into your bed at night or something. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the other thing that happens only on occasion is a sense of a sort of total peace. A total peace will a brief moment of total peace will occur, and as soon as it occurs, it has my attention, and then it's gone.
So now the way I would translate that is, and I've had that experience too, is that the minute we experience the peace, the mind is engaged and tries to figure it out. So my experience is that the divine in me I will be aware of the divine presence, but only if my mind is not engaged. Now that's kind of a contradiction in terms, because we need our brain, right, every minute of the day to do a lot of things. But what I like to do, my brain likes to do, is to, oh, that was interesting. How did that happen? And how can I figure it out so it can happen again? Now that's the part when I feel God's presence kind of drifting away from me.
Yep. Right.
So
the other
so I have to train like a little puppy. I have to train the mind to stay in the mind's realm and not intrude on my spiritual life, to that, at least to the tangible, not really tangible, but the apparent presence of God. You don't go, I have to say, mind, stay out of this.
Yeah, look, the video is breaking up quite a bit.
Yeah.
That's okay. We'll continue. Oh, I may have mentioned this before, but my sense of, this is just my very juvenile or very limited meditative experience of reaching a moment of peace. And when I say a moment, I mean a microsecond, that that microsecond translated into regular time is probably timeless. That it's timeless. And so that helps me to recognize the value of the meditation, whether it's more than a microsecond or 3 seconds or 10 seconds, because I think time is just something that we have in this realm. And it, if you can get out of this realm for a microsecond, I think God gives you a big thumbs up.
I'm with you. And I really do think that the time, I've been very spiritual all my life or my adult life. I think when I was a child too, I had an awareness of the presence of God is back to 3 or 4 years old. But I think that there probably hasn't been, maybe in music, it lasts more than a nanosecond. Or poetry, or a very, very beautiful story, a very poignant story. But the actual experiences I have of the divine are so fleeting. Again, I think it's because my mind engages. I think it's because I realize what's happened. Oh my goodness, I was going to say God was with me. God's always with me. But when I have those experiences, I'm with God. It's God's already with me, and I decide to be with God, or God sort of intrudes on the situation, which thank goodness that happens. But it is unexpected and fleeting almost all the time.
I have something to add to that. I don't disagree with it, first of all, but I would offer that whenever we're engaged in helping another person, or really in regards to something other than ourselves, and usually, maybe always, it's another human being, and we forget about ourselves, and our only intention is to help the other person, God is there. And actually, I'm going to take a wild stab and say, God is in every single moment, but it becomes extremely relevant when we are engaged in helping others, because that's the power pack. The power pack is God. That's how we do it. That's how we do it. Anyway, I can see your smile. I'm guessing that's a good sign. Because you're engaged in that work a lot, Chris. I know you are. I know you show up for people, and that's God working through you.
Well, I think God works through everyone, and some people invite it more often. I mean, I don't know. Maybe, I mean, the whole thing's a mystery. So maybe what happens is we're unaware of it in just that way. So but it happens to us, I mean, God happens to us. So I don't know. I think when someone's being vulnerable, I think God is there. I think that's a guarantee. When someone is vulnerable, we are watching God if we are with them. So at a 12-step meeting, when someone talks about their pain and then their gratitude, and it's from the heart, that's God. God's just right there talking to us. That's my experience. I'm not saying that that's what's going on. I'm saying that's how I experience it.
Yeah. And and of course I agree with that. But I would like to take it a little further down the road and say that even when people are being quite unlikable and cruel and mean, God didn't say, I'm not putting up with this and take a walk down the road. God stays right there. God is right there waiting for something, someone to notice, someone to remember, someone to use the power of that power of love to stay present to all that is, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And so because we need God more in the bad and the ugly places than we do in the good places. So why would God say, well, I'm not playing the game right. I'm calling it quits with this. I think God is at its best or its most powerful right then. Do we move towards that? It's hard. It's hard when you're up against it. When Jesus was on the cross, he didn't say, oh shit, I'm out of luck, I'm in a bad situation here, God's gone, God's not here.
I don't know. I don't even know how to feel about my own reaction. Oh my goodness.
But it's a valid point, that we think God's more present in the good than the difficult and hatred and all that. No, God is there. That's the point. Whether we turn to it because our ego and God goes out the window. When I'm seeing a little butterfly, I see God. There's God.
I think
shit. I think God knows what I'm
it's
saying.
the authenticity that enables God to show up.
Oh, Lord have mercy. What do you think, Chris?
I think it's all about authenticity. I think it's when something real is happening, good, bad, ugly, indifferent, and when something real is happening, I can perceive the presence of God. That's not the right way to say it. Words are so limiting, and sometimes they really ruin a good story,
or a good feeling, or a good
feeling, or a good observation. But so I'd like to just let it soak in, let it marinate. I was listening to this, watching this guy.
Actually,
I was watching this guy tell his story about being homeless and really have no money. And then he got a call from someone. He was a comedian. He got a call from somebody asking if he would come down to New York City and perform. And of course, this was a huge thing. And he started thinking about his circumstances. He didn't have enough money to get to New York and all this stuff. And then he couldn't talk anymore. And so it was a black man, and it was in I think it must have been a black audience, because there was a lot of, amens, and I'm just guessing, but which I love. And it was palpable when he broke down. It was everybody knew what was going on in that group. everybody knew what was going on. And there was like, there was clapping, and there was, thank you. And there was just positive noises coming out, not really words. And there was a lump in my throat, and this is the presence of God. The guy was vulnerable. He was showing his pain, and everybody in that audience could perceive it. They were looking at God. It's very powerful.
Yeah. Yep, definitely.
And in that culture, there was no apologies. We apologize for crying in public.
Right.
The public should be thanking us because we are giving them a glimpse of the divine.
Yep.
We're giving them something of value.
Definitely. And I think that that's happening more regularly and in more places. I'm not sure why. Maybe I'm just noticing it more, but my sense is that people, just to bring up the old song about COVID, it was such a lesson to everyone about how important our relationships with one another are. I mean, if we never knew, we certainly learned then. And since then, even though there's still a little trepidation around where are we going and what's coming up, I definitely see people drawn to speaking from their hearts more than their heads. I mean, they still do the head talk, of course, but generally speaking, I see more, and I see more men doing it, which is very heartening to me, because men were acculturated not to show their feelings. But I see it, especially among the younger generations. Just saying, this really bothers me, or I really don't, I'm feeling overwhelmed. I don't think my father ever even used the word overwhelmed, even though he was constantly overwhelmed. So this truth telling is really wonderful. Authenticity, as you named it. It's our saving grace. So let's keep the ball rolling.
Yeah, truth telling. I mean, that's what it's made of. That's what the spiritual journey is made of. Because when so many things going on with truth telling. So when we're in the zone of truth, there's a vulnerability or an openness that we have that we don't have when we're just going about our work. And truth telling, wow.
Yep.
And if somebody is, I was going to say strong enough, that's not quite the right word. If somebody's willing to tell their truth, gosh, do we really need teachers if people are willing to tell their truth? I don't know.
Well, you mentioned earlier the 12-step, 12-step program, and of course that's the offering. And when one is in those meetings, I'll use my own experience. I had forgotten what the truth was as an active alcoholic. I mean, and what was the truth? The truth that I forgot? God is in charge. Ding! And so in these rooms, people begin to talk turkey about how they decided to take their lives over and run them the way they wanted to run them, and how it all went to shit because nobody knows what to do. that's the purpose of God. So the purpose and goal and focus, and only thing that matters. Yeah, it's really awesome to hear somebody telling on themselves, you know, telling on themselves. It's quite a treat, because when you see somebody else do it, you're like, holy mackerel, wow, I got a lot of things to talk about.
Well, and they did it, so maybe I can.
Yes, for certain, for sure.
And
Yeah.
I mean,
so
yeah, see, that's one of the blessings of my alcoholic family when I was growing up, is that I learned at a very young age, like 15, that it was the really wise people who were telling their truth. And it almost always had something to do with their own, well, I was going to say shortcomings. That's a value judgment, because shortcomings to one person is just truth to maybe a lot of people who are listening. But so now I know, I mean, as an adult, I've always known that if I told my truth, I know what's going to happen to those people who are listening. They're not going to feel less of me. They're going to, they're probably going to say, well, I can relate to that because I've had pain in my life. And maybe I need to think about that some more, or whatever. So it doesn't feel like the risk for me that it does for many people to be vulnerable.
Right. I guess one of the things that I would say is yeah, I'm just looking up, I'm just recognizing that my next thing is at 2:45. I thought it was 3:45, but anyway.
Okay, so we can go whenever you want to.
We'll finish.
Yeah,
we'll finish this. Yeah, I guess when I heard people telling the truth, their raw truth about how they ended up in Alcoholics Anonymous, I just felt my heart felt it, which felt unusual, because my heart was very armored at that point, and protected. And I felt my heart softening, my eyes, and I would say to myself, it's a miracle I'm here, and I'm so glad I believe in miracles. And it was just a whole new way to see myself and others. And it was almost like getting some contact lenses that God hands out so we can see better.
That's a great way of putting it. That's a great analogy. Divine contact lenses.
There you go. Yeah, exactly. And I could look in the mirror and see me differently with these on too. So yeah, it's such a gift, just such a gift, to turn that corner, yeah. So I think probably we do have to go in a minute. I'm hoping that the video came out a little bit.
Yeah, well,
I
I
don't
mean,
know if you can,
if it's too hard for people to listen to, they'll turn it off, but maybe there's some value in it. And then we can figure out a better way to do it in the future.
yeah. We'll look at the other ways of recording and stuff
Yeah.
and meeting. So wonderful. Thank you. Good to see you.
Always great talking with you and
Wish
being
you
with you.
the
And
best.
until our next Holy Compost, sayonara.
Let's keep throwing them rotten vegetables in there.
That's right. That's what I'm going to do right now is put my compost in the compost heap.
There
Okay,
you
my
go.
friend.
All right. Take care.
Yeah, you too.
All righty.